So I'm guessing that you clicked on today's video because you are struggling with whether or not you have an addiction to your phone, or maybe you know you are addicted to your phone and you're not really sure what to do next. I was you. And to be completely frank, I've not quite yet fully broken my addiction. Let's jump into it. We're going to talk a little bit about that today, and I'll give you some of my tips on what has helped me along the way. But let's keep things real and honest. It's very hard to separate yourself from your phone because everything is done on the phone nowadays. You can listen to your music, read a book. If you have a question, you can simply just go right to your phone and type that in. You have access to everything 24/7 in the palm of your hand. That's kind of hard to let go. And so I think the first thing is just to acknowledge that, yeah, it's hard. And you're never going to be able to fully just get rid of being on the phone, right? At least not yet. Not until the next thing comes along. But let's jump into it. So I want to go ahead and give you a little bit of a background story on my own personal experience. Now, for the longest time, I was very, very, very much into social media usage. Just like any other average human out there. Maybe not so average, who knows, right? But I remember when I first got an iPhone, the only things that I really cared about was to be able to listen to my music and to be able to download apps. And then an app came to my attention called Instagram. And oh boy, Instagram had single-handedly, within that moment of me realizing what it was and me going to the App Store and clicking that download button, I wasn't prepared or ready or even really truly knew what was about to happen. So that is where the story begins. I downloaded Instagram and I used it for years. And when I first got Instagram, it was a fun place to be. It was a place where you kind of, just took pictures and shared with your friends so that you could kind of see what you were up to. Just another way to stay connected. It was a community and it felt good. And I don't know when the shift changed. I don't know if it ever really changed or if it just became more noticeable, but I started to get to a point about, what is it, a year and a half, or maybe almost 2 years ago now, where social media, and specifically Instagram for me, became my life. I was constantly on the phone, constantly looking at it, constantly checking to kind of see what I was missing. That FOMO, that fear of missing out and feeling like that 1 minute that I haven't been on it, something big has happened and I'm late to it. And I started to get to a point where my anxiety was becoming out of control. And I started to try to take a look at the things that were not helping the anxiety. It was making things a lot harder for me and just trying to figure out how to eliminate it. And I was eliminating little things at a time, but the one thing that I struggled the most to get rid of was my social media usage. Until finally one day I just said, you know what? It's time to take a break. And that's all I told myself was it's just a break. And I think by just saying that to myself, it made it a little bit easier to, I guess, in a way, feel more comfortable disconnecting for a little bit because I was giving myself that opportunity to step back, but also letting myself know that if I wanted to, I could always get back on the app. So, what I ended up actually doing is I deactivated my accounts, deactivated my Instagram. I went ahead and removed Facebook off of my phone. I think I want to say I also, so I didn't oddly enough, did not deactivate or delete TikTok. But the reason why I ended up not doing that is because I had already removed the app off of my home screen. So it wasn't something that I was really ever conscious of or aware of or thinking about. But we'll get back to this. But ultimately, after deactivating Instagram, because that was the biggest one for me, I decided I was going to remove all of those apps. So mostly Facebook, Messenger, um, Instagram, took them off my phone. And the hardest part was trying to figure out what I was meant to do with my free time. Every second of the day, from the moment I wake up till I went to bed, I would instantly grab my phone. And when I didn't know what to do, I would go ahead and I'd pop open one of those apps and I would scroll through. I don't even know what I was looking at. I was just scrolling, not really taking in a whole lot of information, although I guess in a way you're taking in a lot of information. And now I didn't have that crutch anymore. So it was a matter of trying to figure out what I was doing with my time. And I'm not going to lie, those first couple of weeks, maybe even the first couple of months, was really, really hard. Um, I would find myself immediately gravitating towards picking up my phone and then scrolling through and being like, wait, the apps aren't here. So what do I do next? And so I try to find ways to kind of fill that void and that time and space, which now looking at where I am at this point, it's so interesting because I don't I still don't have Instagram on my phone and I still don't have Facebook on my phone. I still do have TikTok, but I hardly ever go on that app. Um and now I'm trying to think what do I actually even do with my phone when I'm on it? And majority of the time it's either I'm texting someone or I'm checking my emails, which I never used to do. Um or I'm reading a book. Like I'm actually picking up a book and I'm reading a book. And that has always been a huge passion of mine. But I feel like I was slowly neglecting being able to pick up a book and actually really and truly enjoy and invest my time into it. And now I have ample amount of time to do so. I also can now enjoy watching TV or watching YouTube videos. Now, I'll say watching YouTube videos can have its moments where I can get distracted because now there's so much going on, thanks TikTok. But now we've got shorts, um, and everything's about short form content now, and being able to just get any little bit of information in a condensed format that's quick and easy, and you can keep going. So sometimes I try not to get sucked down that wormhole because if you think about it, YouTube is also a form of social media. But I digress. But I say all this just to say that it isn't easy to take yourself away from using your device, especially if you're someone that was like myself and was very, very big on being on social media and trying to stay connected and feeling like if I didn't pick up my phone that I was missing something. And you'll notice if you just give yourself a little time and maybe start slow. Maybe you start with putting a screen time on those apps. That's what I originally started doing. But that also requires some self-restraint because if you have an iPhone and you set a screen time, you are easily able to ignore that screen time when it says that your screen time, you've used up all the screen time. But that's where I started with setting about 30 minutes a day for any of my social media apps. So if I was on Facebook for 5 minutes and then I was on Instagram for 20 minutes and I was on TikTok for another 5 minutes, well, there goes up all my screen time for the day. And I can't go back on it unless I decide to hit ignore and continue to use it. So that was a really good way for me to kind of start. And that's where I ended up seeing that I wasn't using TikTok as much. And another thing that really helped me was removing the app off of my home screen. So again, if you have an iPhone, I'm not sure if this works on Androids or not, but I have an iPhone and I'm actually able to go ahead and remove the app off of my home screen. I'll insert a clip here so you guys can see how it's done if you've never done that before. But by doing so, it still stays on your phone. It's just not in a place where you're able to see and access it 24/7, which was good because it started to retrain my brain. And instead of me looking for that app, if it wasn't there, I didn't think about it. So that's a couple of tips as far as what I have personally used to kind of help take that away and be able to free up that space and have healthy boundaries with using my device. But maybe you're not necessarily addicted to your phone because of social media. Maybe you like to do other things on your phone, or maybe you're someone that's constantly texting and you feel like if you're not able to respond right away, that like again, you're missing out on something. You get that feeling. I used to be there as well, and now I'm so good at being like, you know what, I'll get to it later because I don't really feel like talking to um that person in the moment, or maybe I don't feel like having that conversation right now, whatever it is. But that all takes practice, right? So all I am trying to say at the end of all this is start with small steps, but slowly increase those steps as you go. You can definitely go cold turkey, but you also have to be ready for it. Because when I first started realizing I would need to take the social media aspect away, I struggled with that a lot. I would get into, I feel like these little like spats with my husband because he'd be like, you need to stay off of that stuff. Like the first thing you do in the morning is you grab your phone and you're on there and you're just scrolling and scrolling. It's not good for you. And I would always argue with him about it because I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. I wasn't fine. And I think I also knew deep down I wasn't fine. But I had to gradually warm myself up to being able to just stop it. I don't think if I wasn't in the right mindset, I wouldn't have been able to go cold turkey on not using any of those things and be successful at it and reap benefits from not being on my phone 24/7. So, with that being said, I also just want to throw in a few questions for you to ask yourself. So, if you clicked on this video because you're curious and you're wondering whether or not you are someone who is addicted to your phone, then let's go ahead and do a little test. All right, so I wrote down a couple of questions here on my little handy dandy iPad. We've got, how many questions did I get here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I've got 8 questions to ask, and we're going to go down the list. So if you say yes to all, if not the majority of these, you're probably addicted to your phone, I'd say. So we're going to go ahead and start off with question number 1. You're always on your phone. So think of this in terms of from the moment you wake up until you go to bed, are you always on your phone? How bad is your screen time? If you go to your settings now, and I'll go ahead and insert a clip of that as well. But if you go into the settings on your phone and you look at your screen time, what is your screen time looking like? If your screen time is looking like something pretty excessive, like 9 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, you're on your phone a lot. That is a good majority of your day just on your phone. All right, let's move into the second question. You lose track of scrolling time. I cannot tell you how bad I was at this. It's like I didn't even realize what I was doing. I just felt very robotic. I would pick up my phone and just go, 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 and be just scrolling. You know, this is a really good example. So, back in the day when I first found TikTok, and this is what made me realize I needed to remove TikTok off of my home screen and set the screen time up and all that good stuff. I downloaded TikTok and I went home after work one day and I was sitting in my room on my bed. It was a nice summer sunny day outside, which I should have probably been outside enjoying the weather, but yet I was inside sitting there on my phone and I was scrolling. And I'd stumble upon videos and I'd laugh or I'd find something sad or I was just finding fulfillment and enjoyment out of it for whatever the reason was, right? But all I remember is the sun was out. I looked down at my phone, and when I looked back up, it was dark. And in my head, I kept thinking, how is that possible? I don't even want to tell you how many hours I sat there scrolling, but I'm going to. I was on my phone scrolling on TikTok for 5 hours.
Yikes!
How? The only thing that made me stop scrolling, and again, I'm going to ask how, is I reached the bottom of my feed. I don't even know how that's possible. I feel like on TikTok, you can just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling until there's nothing left. I don't know how that's possible. But that is what happened. And that was years ago. Like, I want to say that was like 5-6 years ago. But that's insane. And it's all because I was so unaware. I was so unaware of what was happening around me. I was too invested in what I was seeing on my phone and the content that I was consuming, which really wasn't even worth my time that I spent sitting there just scrolling through. So if you are also someone like that, let's not do that. Let's just not do that. Okay, so let's move into our third question. Low battery gives you anxiety. So if you're out and about and you're constantly on your phone and you look down and you see that your phone is now at 20%, now you're freaking out because you think, wow, my phone is going to die and I'm not going to be able to do anything with my phone. You feel lost without your phone. You say yes to that. Start considering whether or not you're addicted to your phone. Because guess what? If you're at 20%, your phone isn't just going to die. You still have plenty of time. Now, I'd say if you're like far away from a place where you can get charged, you want to start thinking of a game plan. But even still, are you out with other people? Do they have their phone? If it's an emergency, would you be able to get into contact with someone? You got to think about that. What are you really concerned about if your phone dies? So, question number 4, you keep checking your notifications. I used to do this all the time. My phone would have gone off 20 minutes ago and nothing has happened since, but yet I still pick up my phone and check to see if there's a new notification. I'm just going to leave that one where it's at. But if you said yes, let's think about whether or not we may be addicted to our phones. Now, my 5th question, and I don't even know if these are necessarily questions, but things for you to think about, I guess, is what I'm trying to say here. This used to get me all the time, and it still gets me sometimes. Now it's actually been happening with my watch, which is concerning. But do you have phantom vibrations? And if you don't know what I mean by phantom vibrations, then let me explain a little bit. You think your phone has vibrated when it hasn't at all. You look at your phone and you're like, that's weird. I swore I just got a notification. I felt the vibration or I heard the vibration. Yeah, that used to get me all the time. I could be sitting down minding my business and I would think that I'd hear my phone vibrating on the table, or I feel like I can feel my phone vibrating in my pocket. Yeah. Now I'm dealing with that with my watch. Although I do think sometimes it does just randomly vibrate. So I'm not sure why it's doing that, but that's okay. So 6th question that we've got here is Your phone is the first and the last thing that you see in your day. Oh boy, this was me to a T. And to be completely honest, it's probably still the first and last thing that I see a good majority of the time. But I try to fill my evenings either with the like picking up a book or listening to an audiobook in some format or something else other than just going to bed watching YouTube videos or something of the like. But in the morning, I'm trying to think. I want to say it's not always the first thing I end up gravitating to. I'll normally get out of bed and then I'll go to the kitchen or the living room and I will make something to drink like coffee or something like that. Maybe I'll sit down and talk to my husband for a little bit. But there are still times where I do grab that phone first thing in the morning. Now, am I grabbing it to go on social media? No, because I don't have those apps on my phone. But I am still busy looking at my text messages that maybe I missed or anything like that. Because what I'll also do when I go to bed a lot of the times is I'll put my phone into a screen time. Not a screen time, but a focus mode so that I am not getting disturbed or distracted, which is another good tip that you can utilize to kind of take yourself away from the phone. Because if you don't know what's coming in, then maybe you don't need to gravitate towards it. So, what are we on? Seventh? My seventh question, and this is my second to last one. Is your phone in your hand versus in your pocket? So, are you the type of person that is always walking around with your phone in your hand rather than in your pocket or in your purse or somewhere other than just constantly being in your hand? I do this from time to time still, but majority of the time, if my pants have pockets, it'll go in like my back pocket, or even now, if I go out and I have a purse, it'll be in my purse. And my last question is, do you use two screens at once? I was big on this, and I still catch myself doing this now, but I catch myself doing it. So what I mean by this, are you someone that is, maybe you're on your computer and you're working on something, but then you grab your phone and now you're scrolling on your phone, looking at YouTube videos and things like that? Or my biggest thing was I'd put the TV on. I would sit down and be like, yes, I want to watch this episode. I've been waiting for the new episode of this show, or I want to binge this, or I want to watch this movie, and I'll put it on. And then 5 minutes into it, I go ahead and I pick up my phone, and now I am no longer watching what I just said I wanted to watch. I'm so fully invested now in my phone. If you said yes to the majority of these questions, then I think that we are looking at a slight addiction to our devices. And I'm not here as any expert, but I would say that it's definitely something to consider and start kind of working on ways to maybe combat that a little bit. And I hope this video has helped you guys. I hope you also were able to take away some tips, but that is all that I have for you guys today. So thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will catch you in the next video. Take care and bye-bye.